Hello, hello, hello. It's Thursday afternoon, well, Thursday evening now in the UK. It's 1800 hours, 6 p.m. It's cold and grey out. Well, it's dark now because night's descended, but it's been a grey, cloudy day, which means it feels colder than it is. No radiant heat from the sun, or not much. And I'm actually feeling quite tickety-boo, though I had a Welsh class earlier today. And that usually leaves me very drained. But the test of the pudding, as is said, is in the doing. So I shall do my best to keep going and finish things. Though I, my eyes are telling me I feel tired, which is bizarre. But anyway, I hope you're all well. I hope you're looking after yourselves. I hope you keep keeping warm if you're in a cold place and keeping cool if you're somewhere hot. Because I know that half the world is in summer or heading into summer, and half the world is heading into winter. So the cold and hot halves of the year. And we swap around in about 6 months. So, fair's fair. There's a balance. So, what I plan to do today is I want to make my own greetings cards for this season. I don't send many out. Um, as most people I know, I'm looking for things and they're here. Most people I know, we don't exchange cards and gifts because, as my older sister said, "What's the point? I only end up buying you something you don't really want, and you do the same for me." So we tend to treat each other in different ways, and the same with other family members. But there are people who I don't see very often who live away from me who I do like to keep in touch with. But I say sort of the seasonal cards, Christmas cards, whatever, I prefer Yuletide cards, are useful for any time of the year. And these designs would work for any season, I guess, any occasion that you wish. And it's just a matter of changing colours if you choose to use colour. Um, so I've had these in my stash for a while, I think, though I'm not too sure. I could have bought them new for such a task, but I got no recollection. These are craft paper cards or card blanks. That is an envelope, and this is one of the card blanks. They come ready cut and scored. So you need to do to create the card is to carefully fold them along the scorecard. And I use something like a at the edge of a ruler, a clean edge, or I've got something called a bone folder. They used to be made out of bones, but nowadays it's plastic or Teflon generally. And I'm just using that to apply some pressure on the crease so that it stays folded and doesn't flap open easily. These are quite sturdy. I know the brand Do Crafts or Papermania, and they're really good. And they come with matching envelopes, so you don't even have to make your own envelopes. Now, caveat here, you can make these easily enough. It's not a problem. I've done it in the past, and you can make custom sizes. But I had these, so I thought, right, let's go with that. So these are 4 inches by 4 inches, or as it says on the container, 102 millimeters by 102 millimeters. And I'm going to pop the envelope. Actually, I'll keep the envelope out for a moment. But I had a little play this afternoon for a while, and this was the first one that I did. I actually used watercolor pencils, and I didn't have a water brush with me because I was doing this downstairs. So I've put the color down, but I wanted to go over it just to cause the colors to sort of like smooth out and become watercolor looking, and just do all the red. I was too lazy to get off my butt and come upstairs and get one. Basically, I had Welsh this morning. Enjoy my Welsh classes immensely, but they do leave me feeling quite drained afterwards. And surprisingly, I thought I was going to end up falling asleep after I had a very late lunch because I had to do some food shopping, which meant going online because, it's that crazy time of year. And me and shopping, I don't enjoy shopping at all. Unless it's for art materials or stationery, that's different, or books, or cuddly toys. I do like a nice cuddly. Um, and so I just thought I would do a quick shop online, got everything I needed, sorted the fridge out, and because there were things there from before I had COVID that needed to go. So there's a lot of food recycling went out, and gave it a clean and whatnot. So all's well now there. Stocked up with fresh veggies, got some lovely fruit. I've been buying these anyway, but I tend to forget what I have. Don't make lists, just go and do it. I'm making a bit of a pig's ear here, but I'm not too worried about that because this isn't one don't think I'd actually use because I'm just not sure about this, but I'll sleep on it. Actually, why don't I just fill all of these sections in with red, and then that would look a bit more coherent and the patchiness would be quite nice. Do I want to do outside? Well, it's spilled out, so I guess I'm going to, doesn't it? Um, so I ordered a beautiful pizza to cook at home. I shop with a company here in the UK often called the Co-op, and it is a cooperative society, so it's owned by its members, of which I am one. Because if you have a membership card, you get all the offers and so on. They don't have too many. It's not like some supermarkets, but you used to get money back on every purchase you made as a member. But nowadays, it's not that way. I can't remember what they're doing now, but something equivalent. I think it's giving more offers, good offers on foods that you regularly buy, rather than you know whatever people used to do. I used to let the money accrue. I think 1 year or over a couple of years, I had something like over 50 or about 60, £70 there, and, I decided to spend it, which was a good thing I had it because my toaster broke, my kettle broke, all at the same time on Boxing Day, the day after Christmas, and luckily, the Co-op was open, and they luckily had a toasters and kettles in stock, so electric kettles, yep, I'm a Brit, and, so I was able to pick one up, and it was oddly very quiet there as well. On the first day after Christmas, the big sales are always in the big department stores in cities and out of town places. So, and the little supermarkets that sell lots of food um, don't get a big look in. I don't know if you can see, but there are some, yes, you can if I move it, some shiny metallic spots. That I used this pen, it's a pen, I'm sure it's Pentel. The Pentel hybrid dual metallic gel pen. These are lovely. This one is just gold, but others, like this green one, don't know if you can see because my lighting's really poor today. I'm going to have to learn how to set this up, but you might see that there's green and blue here. So this glitter inside is a mixture of green and blue, and depending on the color behind it, depends which color shows up the most, which is interesting. Um, and of course, I've got a red one, and this one is red and a sort of like pinky red. I'm sure there's another one. I think there's one that's red and orange, but they are really lovely. But like with all glitter gel pens, the glitter will rub off. So I dug out one of these. This is a Sakura glaze pen. This one's a clear one, and I just use it very gently on the top to let some of the glaze ink run out, and when it dries, it creates a shiny, transparent, protective cover over the glitter so it doesn't go everywhere. You can paint over it, do anything you like, and this won't redissolve. It's sort of like it just remains as it is. So I'm just going to finish doing some of this very quickly because I this is making a difference. I'm feeling a bit better about this. This paper that I've got isn't meant to be used with water. It's, Nina cardstock. I think this is the Bristol vellum one, which has a bit of a texture. The other one is quite smooth that I've got. I've got 2. So I wanted to see what they were like. They're great for alcohol markers, but me went, no, I'll use these. Yeah. So I've got some more red here because I did some berries underneath these mucas and I thought, oh, red would look nice there. And then by the time I'd finished, I realized that having white gaps really didn't look quite right to me. But as I'm now got the chance to amend that. So my idea was that I'm creating little patterns here that I could add colour to. This is very uninteresting for a draw with me, but I think I just wanted to show you how things I haven't finished these and the difference that a little bit of water can make to watercolour pencils. And they are watercolour pencils, they're not Inktense, so these will always reactivate with water. I did use two shades of red, one a more brighter red with a hint of orange, the other one the darker red, and two greens to add some interest. And the lovely thing about watercolour pencils is that when you wet them and blend them, they cover the surface really nicely, but their colour really does show up. You can use them just like you would regular colouring pencils or crayons, as you say in America. Crayons are a different thing over here in the UK. Um, but in this, just this very quick wash of water just makes the world a difference, in my opinion. Really makes the colours stand out. So something that was a little bit on the dowdy side, in my opinion. That's the one. Too many remote controls on my desk here. But you can see that the colours are beginning to show up better and shine. I like how I've got pink and red in this. So obviously the red is going to be fainter where I haven't coloured in. So that's worked out nicely. So I'm going to pop this to one side. If I show you from the side, perhaps you can see, perhaps so much, but it really has started to buckle and wrinkle. But I know that it will dry and go back relatively flat. One that I'm working on is a variation on that, and I'll show you how I set this up. I made a mistake here somewhere with my measurements as well. Um, so these are 3" by 3" pieces of paper. I'll tell you what they are in centimetres. 7.5 centimetres, hopefully by 7.5. Otherwise, I really did. Yeah, they are 7.5 by 7.5. And I'm going to use a pencil. I've got a mechanical pencil here. It's a 0.5 millimeter tip on it, if you want to know. I have various sizes. And what I'm doing is I'm lining up this ruler with the points on the corners and just drawing a diagonal. I'm going to do the same going the other way, like so. So this is the center point of my piece of paper. So I'm going to do a border around it. I'm using this green line here as a guide. I'm going on the top side of it. I'm just drawing that in. And then if I go and do the same thing, this makes sure that my lines are parallel to the edge, but they should all join up neatly to form a... Ooh, this one is slightly higher, so I will just adjust this ever so slightly, like so, and hopefully these two will join up. Yep, they will. They will. There we go. Good enough. Then what I'll do is I'm going to use the ends of these lines here to line up with the edge of the paper, or one here, kind of, so that I can make sure that I've got a line that's perpendicular to the two edges there. Another one here. It's a bit like a maths class today, but I'm not doing any measuring, working out numbers, God forbid. Seriously, God forbid. And then I'm just drawing a diagonal line from the remaining corners in each of the 4 squares I've created. You could do this by hand, but I thought today I'm in the mood for a little bit of precision in how I divide this up. Perhaps if I've got time, I'll do one that doesn't have that kind of idea. So I'm going to leave the outside border as it is, and I will just zoom in so you can have a good, okay, the zoomy in doesn't want to work. Genius. This is such a temperamental thing, this um, camera I've got, and it's remote control. Sometimes it works absolutely blooming perfectly, and other times it don't work at all. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to have a wobbly time, and I'm just going to move that down manually. There we go. And then I will hopefully, is it going to bounce in and out? Hopefully not. Just get it a bit more level. I'm going to use a Micron PN today. The my delivery of PNs and the Pigma Sensei's Sakura pens from a UK company called Cult Pens arrived today. They told me I wouldn't have them until next week because they'd run out of the Sakura Pigma Sensei, which isn't a problem. So it was a really lovely surprise that they arrived today. So I'm using my pencil lines just as a guide. I'm not trying to draw along them exactly precisely, but what I am doing in case I make any deliberate kinds of wobbles is doing my usual and just popping a couple of wobbles in or letting wobbles appear as they will. So it looks hand drawn. And what I'm going to do next is do I want to draw another border in there? Shall I? I think I might. Didn't do it on the others, but I am just eyeballing this one. I'm not going to use any construction lines. I'm just going to trust that what I draw will, to the eye, look about the same, will work out. And everything will be fine and dandy. And then what I want to do here in these sections, I'm not going to draw that cross in, but what I am going to, oh, excuse me, I'm hicking, is in these sections, I'm going to draw a square inside this inner border edge or inside these pencil lines to create a small square. So I'm going to split this up essentially into 4 parts. Right, let's move my light around so the light's going that way. Actually, that's better all round, isn't it? I like these PNs and the Senseis because I can actually write with them on the edge and they work nicely. Can't do that with the Pigma microns. They just don't work for me in that kind of way. Again, I'm not measuring particularly. I'm trying to start and end the line sort of like at the same level as these, but if it's a little bit out, it's only people who insist on measuring things and checking that they're actually exact will be bothered by them. So that's my basic grids. So inside this, I've got lots of options. And what I think I'm going to do, apart from writing on my hand, which is something I'm really very good at, ink stained hands often, luckily it washes off. I'm just going to draw in these diagonals, and then I'm going to use them just to split this square up. I want the center points, and the easiest way for me to do that so the points meet up is by doing this. Again, no, no no protractors, no measuring, just doing it by eye. So what I want to do here is I'm going to make a little triangle like this. So it's like a little or wide, very wide, shallow V shape, but it hasn't got straight edges. The edges curve towards that center line. And what this reminds me very much of patterns or carvings you would see in medieval churches and so on. You also find this kind of thing in medieval manuscripts. And I'm absolutely positive the scribes in monasteries who did these things would have used a similar construction to what I just did. I'm okay with maths, sort of, but I say sort of. It's an absolute nightmare. I never passed any maths test until I did my O level at 15, nearly 16, which is, that's before we do our A levels. And I thought I was going to fail. I think the teacher thought I was going to fail. I was remarkably remained in O level maths instead of being put down to what then, we had a 2-level exam system. The other one was called CSE, which I think we did joint CSE and O level. So if you failed the O level, you got a CSE. So you didn't just fail. But I was amazed when the grade came back and I'd actually got a grade B in maths. I think everybody was astounded, and I still don't know how I managed that. I think I'm convinced there was another Angela Porter somewhere in Wales with the same birth date or whatever, and they got us confused somehow. And that poor girl should have passed, and I should have failed. But who knows? Perhaps I was better than they led me to believe. Or perhaps the tests were harder than the O level was. I don't know. Who knows? I know a lot of the maths you learnt by rote, and there was no way of helping you to understand what was occurring in some ways. You do it like this. Why would be my question, though I never asked it. So we've got this here. I really like this. And I'm going to leave it just like that for now. I have a feeling I may put some colour in these, almost like stained glass windows. I don't know if I'm going to divide these sections up in some way. I could join them from these points across, especially if I make them line up, or I could do them from the points, or I could do them in a square, and I think I'd fancy a square that dips inwards, but I'm not really sure what I'd want to do because I like the shapes just as they are. It's these outside portions that I want to do something with. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to use a variation of Muka. So I'm basically drawing an upside down letter J and it's straight on the edge there. I'm making it go along the line, then I'm curving it round and coming back. So it looks a bit like a letter D, but I haven't joined it up here because I want a stem like that. So I'm going to do the same on the other side, except because I'm doing this freehand, they may not be exactly the same. And they're not. But in the grand scheme of things, right the way around the whole of this, it's going to be a coherent design with a coherence of inexactitudes. God, that sounded posh. Yeah, I think Welsh has got to me today. Actually, it was my last Welsh class before the new year. We have a break. It's the end of our term, or semester, as you would say elsewhere in the world. So 7th of January, we restart, continuing with Mynediad, the entry level of Welsh. And I'm looking forward to hopefully continuing next year with the intermediate level and then eventually the advanced level. My aim is to read The Hobbit. It's been translated and published in Welsh and Gymraeg. It's Yr Hobbit, and I know the story, but I'd like to be able to read it in Welsh and understand it in Welsh, if it makes any sense. So I've done all of these. Now then, before I decide how I'm going to join this together or what I'm going to do here, I've got these lovely little shapes here that look like little arrowheads, don't they, on the top? Well, I don't want to follow the straight lines. I want something a little bit different. So I'm going to go in a little bit and I'm going to make them little points. I'll try and make them symmetrical, but that may not happen. And it's fine if it isn't, because unless somebody comes along with a magnifying glass or spends hours staring at it close up, they won't notice. Hello, AX cards, thank you. And I am going to put a little bit of black in here as well. So I'm putting a smaller version of that shape down, and I'm just going to fill it in with some black. I have got an 01 fine liner out. It's not a Sakura Pigma or Micron. It's a Unipin pen, but they work in the same way. They both have waterproof ink in, and all's well and good. A part of me, when I was thinking about that, was thinking, oh, wouldn't it be fun to do a watercolor background and then draw on the top of it? But I thought, not today, it's another time. Because I think this is a lovely way to share art and to create little things that aren't overwhelming either. And even though I have a passion for, I love geometric shapes, I also love organic shapes. And so I'm using a mixture of them here to create a quite symmetrical tile. I mean, this could go on a ceramic tile and used to decorate things. And again, that's might be in my head where some of the inspiration for this has come from, because I do have a bit of thing for medieval tiles as well. Couldn't give you any information or anything else. How did I find this style? Scott, I have always, as long as I can remember, loved geometric patterns. I've loved things that are abstract. I love things that are ordered. I'm a scientist, um, as well as I was a science teacher and I taught some art at the same time. I've always been interested in details and pattern, both abstract and organic and geometric. And I was drawing things like this. I did my A-level art when I was in my when I was just about 40, I just turned 40, which was 20 odd years ago, I know. And a lot of my work had things like this in. I get inspired by medieval manuscripts, architecture, prehistoric art and pattern, rock carvings, things like that, ancient Egypt, La Tene culture, the Celtic art, as it's often called, and patterns where they occur in nature and so on. And my love of doing fiddly, intricate art lends itself well to this, and my scientific part that likes some form of accuracy is also enjoys this. But I've learnt to embrace the slightly imperfect of it because that's the human element. Oh, thank you so much, Scott. Um, I heard about Zentangle long after I was doing things like this. So I've looked into Zentangle. It doesn't quite gel with me. I'm not denigrating Zentangle, but it's a step-by-step process that people follow, and they've got their own methodology and idea behind it, and the aim is for, um, both expressing yourself, but it's mainly as a form of Zen, hence the Zentangle of finding relaxation and peace and a break in the day. Whereas for me, it's a way of me expressing me far more, and this is quite controlled because I do quite abstract things as well. So the inspiration's always been there around me, and along with things like arts and crafts, like William Morris, Art Nouveau, work of William Burgess. Um, I'm lucky enough to have various examples of his work close to where I live in South Wales, and I just love it. Anything that's if I can mix organic with geometric, I love it. That's so much like medieval manuscripts and illuminated letters and so on. So, thank you so much for saying that. I'll have to look you up now. Let me write your name down on something. If somebody ever takes this off one of the cards, they'll wonder who Scott Austin is. So, my biggest problem, that's fine. If you've got anything on Instagram or anything, I will find you eventually. When I've got enough energy after this to do that. But I've written your name down. I'll be keeping an eye out for you in the nicest possible way, by the way. I don't mean to sound menacing or stalkerish because I'm not. Um, what's I going to say? Color vexes me. The use of color vexes me. But I know that if I keep to a very simple color palette, it works better for me. That's all I'm going to say about that. I'd love to be able to do a lot of work in watercolor, and watercolor I love, but it doesn't love me. Or I haven't found out how to get it to work completely with me. I'm just adding some inky solder here at the base of these leaves. I like a little bit of this kind of density of ink there. And it just takes me back to stained glass windows, which again, Scott, I am on Instagram. Angela Porter, either Artword or you can tag me as Artword, Artwyrd, or as Angela Porter. I think it's Illustrator. Angela Porter Artword, I think it is. Don't ask me. If I tried to look it up now, I could end up ending the live stream because I can be a bit clumsy. But I'm definitely on Instagram. You can find me on DeviantArt if you go there. I'm Artword there. I have a blog which is called Art is the Adventure, but its website is artword.com. Artword is my sort of like business name because I'm no longer a teacher. I've been earning a living for the past few years as a colouring book artist, as well as being semi-retired. So I was able to take my teacher's pension when I was 55, which at the time gave me some security. Nowadays, with inflation and the nonsense that's going on, well, yeah, let's not go there. Okay, this is now, if I show you the coloured one, where did I put it there? Slightly different, but I joined these up with little arts. This one, which is a slight variation on, you can see they're similar but different even now. I hadn't decided what to do with these. And I think what I might do is to actually create almost like bushy leaves coming out from around here, just to fill this space up. They may not be perfect, but I just think that might work. If it doesn't, what have I done? I've wasted a bit of time and a little bit of paper. And to me, sometimes you have to just try things and see if they work or not. I do try to make a note of things when they don't work, but that doesn't mean I necessarily remember or go back through all the notes I've made to self. So I am filling in the base of these with black. I'm again just going to go in these places where they join together with that little hint of black, just to show Yeah. For some reason, it just makes me feel that they join together as separate pieces. Actually, that'll work, I think. Yeah. Makes me happy, so must be okay. There we go. Oh, all these little places where there's ink hasn't got to. If I see them, I just go back and fill them in. If they remain afterwards, again, I'm not going to fret. My desire to be like a robot or machine when it comes to drawing, I've long expunged out of me. There still is that need for accuracy, but I'm happy to have some wobbliness in it, for want of a better word. Bit of humanity. Even when I use digital art, digital art tools, which I don't do often, I have to say, I try and set my brushes up, pens that have got a bit of wobble in them and an imperfection in the line. But even then, they no matter how I set it up, I always seem to have lines that get corrected to be a little bit more perfect than I might like, but there's still this element that, well, perhaps they've been made by human, perhaps they're not entirely, digital, as in nature. They're not too perfect. Most use I find for them is with digital art is for tradigital, which is where you take a traditional drawing and then you use digital art to add colours and shading and highlights. Oh, I am on Instagram. I did say that, yes. See, I don't keep up with the chat, so I do, and then I forget that I've replied. I'm in the zone. So, traditional and digital art, tradigital, is something that I like doing, and I will use traditional methods of adding colour or cross-hatching and so on. But, there's something about digital that takes away my fear of messing things up, especially if it was an original drawing, because I sometimes forget to scan things in before I add colour or add anything else, which means that I'm gonna have to redraw it, and that can be a bit of a pain. It's bad enough when I have to do it for publishers. I just go, that's an expected part, but for myself, I just think, "Oh, you've done it again, Angela. All too keen to see it come alive with colour. Can't be bothered just to go to your computer and scan it in." Yep. So that is so far. I've got a hankering here to add yet another border just inside of this, just to bring out that shape. And I think it's that shape that I will then add some colour to, maybe. Just trying to keep these lines the same distance all the way around. But again, if they vary, they vary. I'm not a sculptor. I like watching people sculpt stone. I have a friend who's a sculptor, and he specialises in reproducing statues and other work. Say specialise, it's one of the things he does in of medieval times, using the tools and techniques that medieval masons used. He was commissioned to remake a Virgin with Child, a statue that was destroyed during the dissolution of the monasteries at Tintern Abbey, and that's where I met him. I went there sketching one day, and he saw my sketchbook and started up a conversation and explained to me that he was using the same tools and methods that the medieval masons were. He'd done research to find out who the masons were that had probably done the original statue, which had been discovered during our, digs and, explorations and excavations at the abbey. And so he remade this in the style of these probable sculptors and where they came from. But he also went out to the same quarry that the original statue's stone came from and brought that back in his big Land Rover thingy. And so it was absolutely true to how it was, and even to the point that in medieval times they believed that the eyes were always the last thing to be sculpted into the statue, and it was done when it was in situ, and it was done at night time. And he said it's a lonely vigil for the sculptor. You're there alone because at the point the eyes are sculpted, they believed that the spirit of the person of the statue, so say the Virgin Mary, would be imbued in that statue. And I asked if I could witness that, and he said, "No, I told you it's a lonely vigil." I went, "That would be amazing, but no, I never got to." But yeah. What pen do I use? What pens do I like to use? It varies. At the moment, it's the Pigma PNs, the Sakura Pigma PN, Sakura Sensei, Pigma Sensei 0.4, both of which have plastic nibs. I do like Unipin pens. I like Sakura Microns. I do use fountain pens. Sometimes I'll use Faber-Castell Pitt Artist pens. Sometimes I'll try out other brands. I've got some Ohuhu ones here, which have got liquid tanks and ink tanks on them, as it were. So they've got a lot more ink than usual. The problem is that I wreck the nibs in next to no time. I'll use biros occasionally for sketching. Um, it depends what I'm doing. I've got so many different kinds of pens here. I do like to swap and change them. Oh, Uniball eye pens. Like this one's a blue one, but these are great. This is a fine with a grey barrel, but you can also get a broad which has gold tops, gold colour, and the micro are black here and here, and the ink is waterproof, and it gives a very consistent line. And these are the only gel pens I can actually use successfully, and they last. I haven't wrecked one, and I may not have emptied them out because I tend to let people have a load and I let them keep them. So I like those. And there's also um, there's um, there's Pentel and Uniball, I think, do document safe gel pens, and they do a white gel pen, pigment ink in it that's waterproof, permanent, and is very opaque. They are fantastic, but I haven't got one. I was looking for some before I started this to use, and I couldn't find them. I also like for white pens, I like a Sakura Soufflé, and they are fabulous because they go on, they appear to pick up the color of the ink or whatever's underneath, but when they dry white, opaque, and slightly raised. So I can't get them anymore in the UK. Um, Nobody seems to have them. They have them in very limited stock, it seems, in various colors, but they're just not available. So I don't know whether it's Sakura has stopped making them or there just isn't the market for them here. So, like all the jelly roll pens, with Sakura, there's similar kind of thing. You can see how little's left in there. Yes, I have emptied these a number of times. But they have a slightly raised and slightly shiny surface, and they are waterproof and permanent when they dry. So I like those, but I tend to keep them for very special occasions. This one, put glitter down, but to protect it, stop it being rubbed off, I've used a clear glaze pen, again from Sakura. And just by pressing down gently on the point, the ink flows out, and you can just gently move it around without moving too much of the glitter. And when it dries, it creates this shiny, plasticky surface that again is waterproof and permanent. And those are great. Those are still, you can get hold of those. It's just souffles I can't. I have got a white glaze pens. I've got white, black, and clear here. They give very broad lines, and I have used black ones for drawing enormous, like A3 sized um, abstract art back in the past, and then coloured in because they give a raised line that's plastic. It's very easy to colour in with inks or with watercolour, a bit like colouring stained glass, I suppose. Stained glass art. Righty ho, so I am finished with this as it is. Next job, eraser. And for the lack of mess, I'm just going to get a kneadable eraser out. I try my best not, as I've done it there, not to crumple them, but I nearly always manage to crumple pieces of paper when I'm using an eraser. But the pencil has to go. And the other added advantage of using an eraser is it picks up any loose pigment on the surface of the paper that when you use watercolors or any water soluble medium or even alcohol markers, they don't get picked up. Okay, so this is a little set of Daniel Smith paints that I have. I've actually got a bigger set, but not a huge set, and core as well, because you know reasons, nice colours, and I wanted ones that filled up like this, and a little set that I could just have. I have got a lovely. I've got this red, which is very orangey. But let me have a look. If I add a little bit of purple to it, so yeah, there's some that is purple mixed with um I think it's a gold something. It's not gamboge. I haven't got the list of the paint colours, but I'm going to use that. Don't know why I'm using red. It's not my favourite colour, but it's going in. So perhaps I could do two in red and two in. Oh, gold would be lovely, wouldn't it? I have got gold paint here somewhere. There we go. This paper is not designed for watercolor, but like most papers, as long as you don't go over the top with, have the medium too wet. Oh, it's too late. We're not going to have gold. We're going to have red, apparently. Um, then it's usually okay. Just don't saturate it with water. There we go. Have I mixed up enough of this? Probably. There'll be some blotchiness with these, and I am going to go back after cleaning my brush while these are still damp and just dot on some water just to give some blossoming and blooming and bleaching of colour here and there. Should have done this one a bit sooner perhaps, but it'll be fine. Just need a little bit more of that, I think. Yeah, that'll be fine. So that's what I particularly like about watercolours is that ability to make texture in them, and that fascinates me and it adds interest. So this needs to completely dry before I do any ink on it. And my experience is that with this, the ink will, the paper will spread, the ink will spread out a little bit more on the paper. So I most probably will only use a fine line pen to add any details or anything else I wish on there. Okay, my green is looking particularly glossy over here. So what colour? I'll add some of this, which is a kind of golden ochre, just to get a bit more golden colour there. I think it'll be okay. Just a bit more of that colour. Yeah, just have a look on here, and actually that's quite nice. I quite like that, but I think it just needs that hint of green still. Just add that. And that's what I'm going to add to these. Ooh, that's a yucky one, but it's okay. It'll be fine. These colours are do seem to be a bit more muted, not because I'm mixing them here, but in general anyway. There's something about them. They're lovely to use, but there's just something about the colours that I don't know. Having said that, I did go for very earthy or quite natural colours, so perhaps that's I've got some bright colours, but not the howling bright things like opera pink and so on. I wanted the more neutral or more earthy colours as a palette because that's what I tend to gravitate towards these days anyway. Rusty, earthy, you know, so on. So it may not be your traditional Christmas green, but you're having Angela work here. So bar humbug and all of that, I guess. I'm no watercolorist, so I'm using this just to put color on, just coloring the space in just to help to bring out the different elements of the design. I'm not here to, expound on the wonders of how I watercolor and so on. It is just about adding interest to the design so it's not just plain black and white. And graphite if I choose to use that. It's pencil shading, which is not my favourite thing, as anybody who knows me here knows. So I've got this. These under here, I think do need to be green, but I think I'm going to go with a much darker green, perhaps a darker variation of this. I've got the colour I'm going to use over here, I think. Just mix some of it with that yellow just to unify the colours, so to speak. This is the easiest way to make colours appear like they belong together is by using what they call a mother colour or one colour that you add to all the others to help them come together. Well, I haven't done that with the red. I haven't added red to this because you'd get brown, but I don't mind that the green and brown aren't, or the green and red aren't, altered in that kind of way. So at the moment, well, that's gone a bit more yellowy again, but that's okay because I can add some of the darker green. What I like about using watercolor paints like this, I think all the watercolor paints I've got just about, there might be the odd color here and there, is their transparency, so they don't muddy up or leave a milky, chalky film over the black lines, which is what happens when you use, well, it's what happens when I use watercolor pencils, even ones of a good quality. The ones I've got are Albrecht Dürer from Faber-Castell, and they're wonderful. The colours are highly pigmented and so on, but the nature of how you have to bind the colours to create a pencil lead means that you get that chalky or that waxiness that's left there, which means you have to go over the lines if you want them to be really standy outy. Whereas with these, I don't have to do that generally. There are some colours or some brands that might have some um, colours that will do that, but they're fewer in inexpensive sets or watercolor pencils. This is very, very earthy. Oh, nearly there. I'm not doing a very good job of actually adding colour to these, but and as I'm doing this, I'm thinking I'd have been better off sort of like adding colour to the background with watercolour or with distress inks, which is something I do use. And I do like the colour palette of distress inks. It's just you can watercolour with them, but they're not that saturated, and it takes, they're either too saturated or not saturated enough if you use the re-inkers. But I think that'll be okay. It's very old and aged looking. Okay, one thing I do want to do is to add some golden, there's a golden colour here. I'm going to use the same golden colour, this lovely golden colour. I'm going to just add a bit more water because my brush is just drying up. There might be a bit of pink or purple mixed in with it. That's fine. I can live with that. I'm not going to go around the inside of these, but I think, do I want to do that? I'm going to do this part because I think I'm going to fill or add a pattern round the outside. And so I'm going to leave it just plain white. And I will add some metallic hints here and there, things. And I'm likely to use black to put down the areas I want the metallic colours in, so the metallic colours show up nicely. This is more like I think it might be a sort of like, I can't remember what they're called. It's not an ochre. It's some kind of golden colour, one kind or another. It actually works quite nicely with both, because there was some of this colour I mixed in with the red. There was a tiny bit in there, and there's plenty in with the green, so they all sort of work together. I do have little white bits because I'm rushing through this, but I'm fine about that. So that's my colour done. And I just need to leave this dry for a little while before I do any more ink. So let's do another one. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start exactly the same way, where I'm going to use my ruler to find the centre of the paper, going from corner to corner of the tile. If you want to know what this ruler is, or it's a quilter's ruler, quilting ruler, and it's got really accurately marked, guides here for distances between in centimeters. I would, I think. I work in centimeters. I can work in inches, but the numbers in centimeters are so much nicer. And it's see-through. It's wide. It's easy for spacing lines, and it's with all these little things here. It's also easy to create lines that are parallel, or borders like this that are the same width. No maths needed. Really not going to do anything like adding and taking away and goodness knows what else. If I can help it. But as I said earlier, I'm sorry if I'm repeating myself, it would have been things like ways like this that the medieval monks would have done this. And because these lines here all line up, I'm able to use it to make sure that the line I'm going to draw through the centre is parallel to the top and bottom. And I'm going to do the same here. I just put my pencil in the centre, and then I can use these lines here to make sure that they're equidistant with the edge of the paper. And the last thing I'm going to do, basically, just go through these. And then I've got a nice grid to work with. You could actually split it down into smaller squares with this by going through the centres and, ones that aren't. But I want something that's got some size with it. It just makes sense to have that space. Otherwise, you haven't got that space to do decoration of any kind. So, hello to everybody who's joined. I'm not very good at keeping track on this because I get so engrossed in what I'm drawing. I'm trying to talk at the same time. I forget to look up. But it's lovely to have you here with me. So thank you. Okay. So I want to do something that's a little bit different to these. So I think what I will do, how will I do this? I've got four big squares here. So I think I'm just going to start by drawing in a border around them, different to the last one. The other one I will finish when it's dried. This one I may not get finished, but the structure will be there. And my thought process of what I'm doing will be here as well, hopefully. That's if I can get my thoughts into words, if I'm even thinking. And then I've got four nice squares in here. So I'm going to do that. But I'm drawing inside these lines about, about equidistant so I can get squares that look about the same size. Doesn't matter if they're not perfectly the same. We're human. If you really want to measure it all out, feel free. Life is too short, in my opinion. Let's get to the drawing. You can see there, these aren't equally distant. They bow inwards there. Am I worried? No, I'm more worried about making sure that the bottoms at least start close to the tops and so on. I'll do that one while I'm here. And these crosses give me exactly the place I need to stop. And that should help me with the equidistance, or the equal distances between the sides of the squares and the outer box, outer square. So I've got four squares. I also have some triangles here. I could divide it into triangles like this, which I'm very tempted to do so, and I think I will. So I do like a triangle. And I'm sorry if you're not a fan of geometric designs, but as you saw in the last one, I'm mixing geometric and organic shapes quite happily. And I'm going to keep, you know what I'm going to do here? I'm going to start from the center on this one, and I'm going to go up to this down. And it's easier if I show you. So I'm going to start here, I'm going to go up. When I hit that one, I'm going to come back, I'm going to go around, create a little circle, and then I'm going to go down and create a little stem there. Inky glue or solder, just to hold that in place because we don't want that popping out of its triangle. Then here, I'm going to do the same kind of thing. I'm unlikely to get the circles exactly the same in size, but I'm not worried. And this will have a longer stem because we're on the hypotenuse, the longest side of the triangle. And then up around here and back down. I haven't added all the inky glue, but I'll go back and do that now before I move on to the next area, because I'll forget otherwise. I'm apt to forget because my mind will go on to the next thing. So here, I want this to mirror that one. So I'm going to go like this and come back down. Inky glue. And from here, we're going to go out like this. In. Inky glue. And then this one It's a bit squashed, but it's fine. It's the same pattern. And again, I'm just going to add that inky glue, or the solder that holds it all together. This was stained glass. And then on this side, I'm going to start here, and I'm going to start in this corner so that this is the mirror image of this one. Kind of. It's more like one of those fairground funny mirrors, you have that distort your shape and size in weird and wonderful ways. But that's fine. Oh, that's going to be a biggie. And it's fine. And then there's this one. This reminds me very much of Latene Celtic art. And when you see this all put together in a grid, it's done in a square. It's sort of like it looks so complex, but when you take it to, look at it and take it to pieces, deconstruct it, it's not as difficult as it appears. Although some of them you're going, how on earth? Sorry, explain to me again. I eventually get there when I spend time with it. I've done it a lot that actually. So this one again, I'm just going to do the mirror image of this one, and then it sets up how I do the rest of these little spirals, the mukas in Zentangle terms. Such a useful little frond. Sometimes a bigger frond than we'd like. But it really does work in spaces like this. And I like the way that we can get it a nice curvy shape. And so we've got that organic nature here combined with quite geometric things as well. And it just works, in my opinion anyway. Should really have used a smaller nibbed pen here for filling these in. I'm going to pick out this shape with an aura inside using the Zentangle term. Not that I'm a CZT, but I'm sure there are other people who use these terms. Make it quite plain and clear. So Zentangle doesn't quite gel with me, and it's true it doesn't in some ways, but I still love watching their videos. So I've got that lovely shape inside. Now I've got these bits here, and there's lots of things I could do with this. I tell you what I'm going to do in the corners. I'm going to finish the ones off that have got space with a nice little circle, perfect for a hint of metallic. This one I may leave actually black and white. We'll see how I feel in a while. This one has already almost become circular all on its own. Okay, so just squashing like little berries in, I suppose. Actually, they could go red, couldn't they, if they're berries? And then I've got these sections underneath. Now, there are things I could do. I could aura and fill it in with black, which would be quite nice because it would kind of echo these shapes here in that one. And I think I might do that in a way. Whereas those are quite symmetrical, these have got an asymmetry about them, but they still have those sides that curve with curve inwards with a point at the end. I just think that might just be nice just to help to bring out various parts of this. These ones in the center, I'm just going to fill in with black. There's no space there to put a seed or berry of any kind. And I've managed to mangle the aura up there, so rather than try and correct myself or do anything else, I'm just gonna say, "Right, okay then, let's just fill all of this space in." There we go. And it might work out better as a result because that contrast, again, too many lines, things can get very confused. But here I've got these distinct areas of black that will help to bring out, will accent or enhance the shape that I've chosen to pick out in the center here. Question is, what am I going to do with that shape? I don't know. My brain is ticking as I talk. I'm not aware of what it's ticking on. I just know that it's going through various options. It's the one thing with me and my brain. It's been found out that there are two broad kinds of thinkers, how people think. One way is you have an inner monologue or an inner dialogue, and you can hear yourself thinking verbally. That happens to me when I am putting myself down or, doing things like that, or trying to remember that I have to go and take the washing out of the machine because it's already been 2 days since it's been sat there, and then I forget and I end up having to wash it again. But, most of my thoughts when I'm doing art, I'm not conscious of, I just do it. And YouTube was a good way, I thought, to get me to speak about what was going through my head, so I can hear it and catch it. I can catch those thoughts, and I can share them with other people rather than trying to remember what was going through my mind. Because, yeah, I'm often not aware of the thoughts at all. They must be going on because, I think about things, but so, and sometimes I just don't have the words for what's going on. But I know that my brain or part of my brain is already ticking over options because that's what it does. And it comes up with some crackers at times, but we'll see. Here, I do need a border here, and I think I'm going to take it full length of this triangle. I'm not worried about the lines at the end of these sections. It's fine. That just helps to finish off that section. So I've got some interesting shapes going on, and I still don't know what I want to do in the center. Let me swap to my O1 moment and see where this one leads. I'm putting very straight lines in here, very close together. I am getting them to kind of move around the point at the ends. So using that as a pivot point to go back to almost parallel. That just brings out that shape in a different way, I think. I don't know whether I've got this right. I'll end up thinking, "Oh, what on earth am I doing here?" And then something will happen and I go, "Okay, that's fine. I'm just following my instincts." Not that they're always good, but today it seems a day for instinct. I do find that if I overthink things, if I spend ages thinking about what to do or whatever, then I get myself in a right pickle. Or if I stop partway through something and go, "Oh, what am I doing?" I had a few pieces yesterday where I thought, "What am I thinking of here?" I really was very, very tired yesterday. Um, still reeling with the after effects of, oh, goodness knows what. COVID for sure, tonsillitis, straight, before I'd even got over COVID, and then various other things. And I'm wondering whether my B12 or iron or both are low again. I'm due a blood test, so I'll be asking if that can be checked. And somebody suggested I have my thyroid checked as well. So I'm thinking, oh, I'm only 60, I will be okay. There we go. So I am going to use the micron. I'm going to darken the lines on the inside part here to make them that little bit thicker, or a lot thicker as may be, depending on how well my hand's going to behave itself, just to give a good distinction between these sections where I've added lines as a texture, but also for shading, I guess, a different tone again. And just to bring these out that little bit better. So this is an example of using organic shapes in a geometric kind of way, in a repeated pattern kind of way. Not sure if that works. I think it will benefit from, oh yeah, what was that I said? Oh yeah, colour. So I've got these ones at hand. I haven't got any others. I'll go back to these. But I've got a lovely, let me have a look. I've got a green up here that's a lovely greeny blue. So that one may actually work quite. Angela, before I do it, no, I'll leave the pencil. It's part of the process. So I'm going to fill these in with this lovely, well, it's sort of like a greeny turquoisey colour. Just adding extra colour to the points in the hopes that they'll be darker. And I'll come back and add some water to the centre before they both dry here. So the dark bits there. And, I'll just take what's extra there. I'm just going to add some water in the middle in the hopes that it will spread out and create a lighter area. I can hope. So I prefer to use a water brush because I seem to get on better with them than traditional brushes. But sometimes I think, my traditional brush might be better. Nice thing about these, though, is that they are portable. Well, portable. I don't believe portable is a word. It should be. That's actually a lovely colour, and just that little bit of colour has just brought that to life, has changed the feel of it. Do I want to put colour in these parts? I don't think so, to be honest. I like them just as they are. But I'm just going to move this out the way because I've now got to think what I want to do in these sections. And there's any number of things I could do. I could repeat these because they would repeat that way as well. But I don't feel I want to do that. I feel I want to add something quite different here. Wrong pen. So as I'm not quite sure what I'd like to do, even though my head's been going, oh, this would be a good idea, that'll be a good idea, as I crowd my desk with stuff, I did bring with me my handy dandy yellow journal. which I have shown, and it's sort of like it's my way of compiling favourite things. So I've got all kinds of ribbon and border patterns, none of which I would want to use there, though holly leaves could be interesting, kind of, but no, no, not going to do that. That's just too obvious. I like these. This is a kind of Rebecca Blair kind of filling pattern, and they would be quite nice. This one especially because that's what I'm going to use. It's more like stained glass. Let's go for it. Okay. And I think what I'm going to do while I'm at that is I have amongst the pile of rubbish on my desk, oops, as I go and do it again, try not to bend these up as I erase, and I always manage to do it. I'm so clumsy. Right, they are actually dry, I think, now. Maybe some pencil will be there in the underneath the watercolor, but I'm not too worried. It is what it is. So I think I'm going to create sections of watercolor like or stained glass like patterns, and that just involves using lines that look like pieces that have been shattered are being put back together. So it's almost like you've got shards of glass. Lots of ways of drawing this. There's no one correct way. You just do whatever works in the moment. So I'm just doing what I want to do here. Might connect that one. I might put a little one in just there. So that's one corner. I'm going to use my smaller pen to come back and add some inky glue, as it were, solder. These layered sections. I'm not trying to make them at all like each other. If anything, the repetitiveness, I suppose, or the pattern is in the way that these are constructed, that they're not going to be identical because they're made up of broken pieces of glass. Now, I could add colour to these sections. What I will do, though, is I am going to go back and split some of these up because these are a lot smaller, but it's not critical. So you could add colour if you wanted to and create a stained glass window effect. And that's entirely your choice. I think I'm going to leave them well, we'll see. My idea is in my head. Will I manage to do it? Will it work? I don't know. The only way to find out is to do this. I think I know what I might do. The head is telling me, which may be a disaster in the making. I used the eraser too soon. I've peeled a bit of paper up there, but it's fine. So we've got that. That actually, I'm quite happy with that. That's worked out better than I thought it would have. But I do want to just go and join these lines with some little, almost like little, again, pointy, sort of like curved, pointy V's, just to show that they are actually joined together. They're not just drawn randomly, it's deliberate, or their structure, they're not going to fly apart. just like you'd see in stained glass, I guess. I keep going on about that. It is important to me. I do like stained glass. I love it when you can sit in the light streaming through a stained glass window and you get covered in spots of light from the window. It's something I enjoy. I'm doing a very good job, but I'll be okay. Again, it's only if people really take a magnifying glass to things and look closely at something that they'll notice the imperfections or the slightly, you know, slightly human touch, or perhaps more than human touch, more human. But that's the charm. This one I do like. I like the colour, the simplicity of colour more than the previous one I did, or the first one I did, which was really a trial. I'm just trying to find my way. And it may be that rather than using this paper for the cards, I'll use watercolor or mixed media paper. Should be quite nice. If I choose to use watercolors, may use a different set to the Daniel Smith. Having said that, I'm using Tense pencils because they always have this grainy feel to them that I like in some instances, but not for this, I don't think. Though if I use them like the Inktense pencils are like paint palettes, the tip, the tip of the pencil, then it works quite nicely. And I do that with watercolor pencils, to be honest. I very rarely use them where I've put them on the paper. I did that with the first example that I showed you. And and it's a reminder of me, Angela, you don't need to do this ever again. Really done this. I think it is tedious, and it can be to a degree. I mean, I'm conscious that it takes quite a while, and because this is a live stream, I'm not able to stop, jump ahead, and come back, but I can. Oh, thank you, Michael. You're most welcome. I'm glad you've enjoyed it. It's my pleasure to share and to help others and inspire, I hope, or even show what you shouldn't do because I make mistakes. But this one is my favourite out of the three. I have to say that. So thank you so much, and enjoy yourself and be creative as well. If I missed Michael, I'm so sorry because I forget to look at the chat. It's multitasking. I'm focusing on art and talking. A third activity can be just too much of overwhelm for my brain. Learning more about my brain as I get older, not because I've got problems with it, but an understanding of how it works, um, has been an interesting journey for the last couple of years, and discoveries about myself, which has been going on for a long, long time. But there we are. There's that one. That one I am happy with as it is, except for I am going to put some of this red in those berries at the tips. And I'm going to put it on the white. If it spills into the black, it's fine. I'll give it a chance to dry, and then I will eventually probably will use the clear glaze pen to seal this in, maybe. Just like that. And so I've got red and green, and everything else can remain as it is. I'm going to give that, I've just realised I may add some, I'm going to give all of that a chance to dry, but I may come and add a little bit of graphite to add some shading in places. Okay, this one is now dry. And I do want to do some things here. And I've got my O1 pen. And what I'm going to do here is with these, I'm going to add hopefully very fine lines here, just to add some shadow at their base. And I am using a very light touch and just stroking them in the direction I want and letting the end just fade off. If it skips and leaves a gap, that's fine. It's hatching, it is. Not cross hatching, because I'm not doing any cross hatching. I'm just putting some contour lines in, but contour lines that help with the shape, but also with adding shade at the base of these little leaflets or whatever they may be that's underneath the main leaf there. The main leaf, I am going to put a little bit of a line like this and perhaps thicken it just at the bottom. So not directly at the bottom of the thing, but a little further up, just to give a feeling of perhaps shadow or dimension. Often I'll put that as a series of dots, but today I feel it needs something a bit more solid. Perhaps it's because the colours are so dark. But having said that, I don't mind the greenery being so dark because that red in the middle seems a lot brighter as a result. So this is the supporting thing, isn't it? The greenery, and the red is the star of the show. Now then, what I think I may do, and I'm just going to draw circles in. I'm going to put circles at the points of these shapes, the 4 points that stick inwards. And then I'm going to come in with some metallic. I think I'm going to use the gold though. So let me just get that again. Just give that a chance to dry as well, and I'll come back to that. But I think that's just the right amount of sparkle. I don't want to do any more. I did want to do something to this outer white box. And I think I'm going to start with straight lines in the corners so that it looks a little bit like, oh gosh, that was my book falling off my desk. So it looks a little bit like a raised tile, if you like. So that means I want to put some fine line at the bottom. Suggest some shading or some shadow down there. I'm not going to do any more than that. And then perhaps that really will offset, will help that feel that way. I think I might just go back and just add a bit more black to the edge here as well. Just to darken these lines a bit or to make them heavier. There's something about having nice heavy lines. It's almost make sure that it says this line is meant to be here, you know. It's make sure it's all fixed in place, it's as it should be. It's also a good opportunity to clean up any overspill of that green. Sort of. You won't really notice it with the dark black line, but it just helps. And as I go around, I'm checking for any places where there might be little bits of white in the black more than in the watercolor. So I've got that. I am going to dangle my initials off because that's a nice thing to do. And I'm going to do the same with this one as well. But what I think I'm going to do here, I'm going to put black dots between the edge here, and I am going to split this central part. And those are going to become, I think, up to the edge, and they're going to become like little teardrops. I've still got some pencil on this, so it's going to have to be what it is now. So that just helps to separate all of these triangles as well. It puts borders around them. So I like that as it is. Okay, give me a mo, because I think I know where my graphite black pencils are. That's if I can see here. Nope, that's not them. That's not them. Nope, there's the Mars ones. Stabler. There they are. I got stuff everywhere, but at least I have a good idea of where they are. These are lovely pens, although there's a Derwent graphic that's found its way in there. Pencils. They're Pitt Graphite Matte, and they are matte graphite. I'm going to use the 8B. I need a tortillon or paper stump, something like that. Which I know I have in here. I do. And I am just going to use this to add. Just noticed cat fur there. I don't have a cat, but I was putting some recycling out, and I did say hello to my neighbour's cat, who doesn't like to be petted but likes to push up against you and rub up against you. So I have cat fur on me. He's nice, but he's friendly, but he bites. He goes into bite mode all too quickly, especially if you touch him. He's very, very touchy when touched. Bless him. But he likes company. I think he was hoping I'd invite him in. I think they're away on holidays for a while, so he's out in the day while her mother comes and sorts him out. So I'm just putting some graphite in the edges here to begin with, down in the dip where, to give the appearance that this might be going underneath. This one. I've only recently seen the point of graphite. I'm not a fan of graphite generally. I find it shiny and grey and it just looks grubby generally to my mind. But the reality is that I can actually see the difference it makes. I have to look at the whole thing, not just the individual parts. And for bringing out dimension, there's nothing quite like it. I won't be using white on this, other than I may use some white dots just to highlight some of the black areas a bit. Maybe, we'll see. I'm not pressing this hard. I don't want this to move too far, which is a good thing, because with these matte graphite pencils, they don't spread as far as traditional graphite pencils. This is an 8B, which means it's quite soft, but it's not as soft as an 8B of a traditional drawing pencil. But it's nice and dark, and it's not as shiny. That's what the matte means. There's still some shine on the graphite, but it's nowhere near as much as it would be if this was a traditional graphite pencil of the same hardness, or even a slightly less hard one. So I've just put some graphite round where this starts to curl round. So I'm going to put some shading there as if this is curling under itself. Not so easy because this isn't I didn't do those center ones. That's okay, because I should end up with enough graphite on these just to transfer it. So that has brought some of that out. I'm also going to put some shading underneath here. And I'm also finding that this works. I'm beginning to understand this. This is something from Zentangle that I've never been a fan of, but suddenly something has clicked within me in the last week or two. It's a bit longer, where I can see the point of it, where I can see that by using the right hardness of pencil or softness of pencil, keeping this close to where I want the shadow, then it doesn't make everything mucky. And in fact, I remember using shading like this, graphite, and watercolouring on top, and it gives a sort of interesting, almost metallic feel to the colours. The grey, you know, it's the way it changes the colours that lie on top of it. I'm putting not too much down because I know that if I want to, I can always go back and add more. And I won't know that until I step back and have a look, which I'm going to do in a moment. And the other lovely thing is, if I go a bit too far, I can erase, which is what I tend to do. That's beginning to float up, but I just think I need some more darkness there. These are a lot harder than traditional graphite pencils of the same hardness. So it's not really the hardness that's being measured here in some ways. It's the how dark they are. So I just go back and blend it in just to make that smooth. So it's not about having to make a perfect line. I'm trying to keep it away from the black line that's drawn there. But I want to keep the darkness close to it, not over it. I think that works. That works better, doesn't it? And what I will do as well, while I put this to one side while I add some shading to the other, I don't think I want to add any more. I don't think I do. I think that's enough. But what I am going to do is I'm just going to come in with this glaze pen and just quickly add some of it over the top of the glitter. Just to seal it in place. And because it's transparent and shiny, the shininess of the glitter should remain once it's dried. We'll go here as well. And I'll pop that to one side well out of the way where it can dry without my interference. And while I'm at it, I'm going to just do these as well, and then I can concentrate on the outside and come back to these inner ones. So the ball point on this acts a bit like a valve. Well, it does act like a valve, but it's a kind of reverse valve. The softer you touch it, the more ink that flows out. If you just touch it gently, it'll keep flowing out and you don't have to work it in. I'm just moving it around just to make sure that everything gets covered. But I find it's a nice little touch. And I'm learning not to overdo the glitter and everything else. So, okay, so we've got that. While I'm working on these, so I can give them a chance. Now I'll come back with a white souffle pen after I've added some shading. So I am going to add some shading here as well. I'm first going to go inside these little marks I put there, the little pen marks. I didn't actually need to put these pen marks here, but I think that by using some graphite, it will just help to bring things together in a way, intensify the shading and perhaps not make that black look quite as stark or as thin and weedy as it is. stringy, insipid, I don't know, spindly. That's a word I used the other day, I think, spindly lines. I'm not a big fan of very fine lines to draw the whole design with. So what I'm going to do here is I am going to add shading along the bottom here and at the corners. It just feels right that I add it at the corners, just a little bit, but that the whole of that bottom edge there is just filled in with grey, with the grey of the graphite. Because this is where I'm getting that shading in that suggests we are we have got something that sits below the design on the top. And they I'm not working with a light source when I do this. I'm working with this as a pattern. So it's part of the overall pattern. And it's just that suggestion that there may be a little bit of light hitting this in places, but it's what I want. But I also want it all a bit more grey. So you can see I've left a white gap here with some very pale grey either side. So it looks like I've got highlights. And that kind of lifts the top up. I want to leave those settle. I am going to add some shading on top of the line here, right where I put those lines, just to help to intensify this. The lovely thing about the graphite is it does let the colour below show through. And I am putting quite a bit in one place and then just easing it gently into the paper. Because that's what the tortillon is about. It's about getting the graphite both to spread out as much as you would desire it to, but also to settle into the fibres of the paper, so it's less likely to smudge. And here's me thinking, wouldn't it be great if I had some spray varnish I could use on paper? I kid you not, that's what I'm thinking of. And that would really bring out the colours if it didn't make the colours run. So it'd have to be something that wouldn't affect watercolour in this case. Or if I used alcohol ink, alcohol markers, which was my first thought, so it wouldn't affect those. But I don't know. That's just darkened those to bring some more dimension there. Right, are these dry? I think so. So I want to put some dimension on these, and I think I'm going to start with just some shading in the point in the centre. Because if this doesn't work out the way I'd like it to, then it's only this section that's affected. But it'd be nice just to darken these a little bit, as if these are settling down a little bit, pointing downwards. That seems to work, kind of. I'm happy with the shape. It's a bit better. Now, what I do to one, I need to do to them all. So So that just has toned down the edge just a little bit, but it's made the centre seem to glow a little bit more. This one, if I want this to appear as if it's floating, I'm going to have to put graphite around the edge. And I think I might do this. I think I'm going to put quite a thickness of it there. Oh, it's my little initials. Well, they'll they'll get done with some graphite, but they'll still be there. Always, always sign your work or use your initials on it. You might not think that you deserve to do that, but you should, because, it lets other people know it was you that did it. And I find a way often of hiding that in, say, colouring pages that I do, or even artwork that I do, that's not obvious to people. It's my little way. It's almost like a little watermark, but it's mine. Because yes, I've had work stolen. What am I looking for? The tortillon. This pointy piece of rolled up paper. Actually easy to make, apparently. They work well with newsprint or with rice paper, thin rice paper that is used for drawing. And it's something I want to try at some point because you can get through a lot of these if you're heavy-handed with them. But to clean them up, you need just some sandpaper or an emery board. And you can clean the muck off the end and get them nice and pointy again that way. And if you happen to have pushed the end in, all you need is something like a long skewer that fits down the centre, a very fine one, or something like a long cocktail stick. And you can actually push the tip back out as well, so it becomes pointy again. Because they just coiled up, it's coiled up paper. This may have been a mistake, but until I do it, I don't know, do I? And because I'm focusing on what I'm doing, I've got no idea what the overall effect looks like. I think that's part of the problem. Ooh, well, that kind of works, doesn't it? Does kind of work. Oh, there we go then. I'm finding out more about myself here. Art is a process. It's an adventure. It's a process of discoveries and realizations. It changes over the time that you create art if you do it constantly. You pick up influences from all over the place, or inspiration and influences, whether you're consciously aware of it or not. That's worked out really quite nice. So let me go hunting. Oh, there's this one. Do I want to do the same here? I think I may. Let's lift the whole of this up. Um, and it's, whether you're conscious about it or not, every time you look at something, whether you're aware of something attracting your attention or not, some shape or some pattern or some colours, colour combinations, they stick in your unconscious mind, if not your conscious mind. And they'll bubble up at some point. I'm absolutely sure of that, if they're meant to anyway. But it's all part and parcel of growing and developing. It's not just about doing art, it's about looking at things that are art. I I do look at the work of other artists to a degree. There are people who catch my attention and I pay attention to them, or people who ask me to look at their work or whatever. And I do love to see people's work, especially sort of slightly egotistically, I suppose, or in a reassuring way would be a better way of saying it, that people are finding this useful and are using what I do in videos to inspire them to create work using the ideas, or to understand things, or to think about things in a different way, or to think about things in a way they've never thought of before. And I I'm always intrigued or amazed by that, because I don't think of myself as that. So we've got these two are done. This one does look a bit grubby, but I think it's more to do with the colours I've chosen. This one I really like. I like the lesser use of colour. This one, that's a trial. I'm not going to shade it or anything. But what I am going to do with these is I'm going to go find some glue. I've got one card here. I will get another one. If you weren't here at the beginning and you're a bit confused, I've found these in my stash. I can't remember if they've been there for ages or whether there's something I bought fairly recently with an idea of creating cards. But they're 4x4 inch cards and envelopes. The cards come like this. They are pre-scored. So all you need to do is just to carefully fold them over and match the corners up. And hold them in place while you just start to crease it down. And then I use just this ruler, the edge, the along it, the short edge of this ruler, just dragging it down. And what that does, it just creases the fold so that this is likely to remain less open anyway while you're working on it. This is where I will struggle. Actually, I've got that. Have I got some glue in a bottle? I have got some glue in a bottle. Because it's tacky glue, which means I have some time to move it around. Stick glues are messy. So what I want to do is to place this, that's an envelope, on front, because I've put my initials on, I want that down, and I want to put it roughly at the centre. So hopefully this glue will come out. It's just tacky PVA glue, craft glue. I don't want it in a very thick line, but I do need it all around. I'm trying to get it up to the edge as much as I can. It's not going to go right to the very edge because that means I will make a mess. But I've got that there, and I'm just going to try to line it up by eyesight centrally, like so. And actually, as I push on it this way, some of the glue will come to the side and will help to stick things down later on. If I need to stick things down, I know I've got a needle nosed one of these somewhere, and that's gone a bit skew with and a bit over that way. So let's just move it along. That's nice. That'll do nicely. There's something else I'm going to do to that. I'm going to give that a chance to dry first. I've got this one, which I haven't put initials on, but again, I'm just going to hang them down like so. I could put the year on. I might do that on the other one. And for this one, I'm going to definitely dot in the corners. So I've got plenty in the corners because I realised on there I haven't got the corners really stepped down. Some like that. It's Mickey stuff. Put the lid on. And then it's that trying to line it up as centrally as you can. Close enough is good enough. And I will turn it over so I don't smudge. And just check. It's moved a little bit. There's a little bit of glue come through there, but this dries clear, so I'm not too worried. And this one has now firmly stuck itself down. There we go. What I want to do is I've used glowed glitter, gold glitter on this one. So what I'm going to do here, just freehand, I'm going to draw a gold border around the image. I'm going to do it by eyeball. I'm not using a ruler or anything. I've got the edge of the paper to help guide me. If it's a bit wobbly, it's a bit wobbly. I'm trying not to press too hard with the gel pen because I know if I press too hard with this, it stops the glitter ink from coming out. But I just think that will be a nice way just to add that extra bit of glitter and glitz. Finishes it off with a border. And that's one card. Now for the other one, Let me have a look. Have I got something here that I'm going to test this out. I've got this one, which is green and blue, and I don't know what colour it's going to be on the card. So I'm going to be very naughty because I'm just going to try a little bit on the inside. Ooh, ooh, that'll be nice. I know I've used red here for the berries, but I think I'd like to use this bluey green colour around the outside edge, as it'll pick that colour up in the coloured spaces on this. So that's added a little something there. Yeah, it's hand drawn. Yeah, it's a bit wobbly, but the whole thing's hand drawn and a bit wobbly. Let me just turn that off. No, obviously, I think when I'm stuck with YouTube or going live on YouTube, it doesn't like using my, who knows? I just give up on things at times. Technology, it has a mind of its own. So this one's got that line on the outside, which is both green and blue, and it seems to pick up this. It's more green than blue, but it'd be better than the red, I think. And then I've got the gold on this. I did say I was going to do something with a envelope, but I think I'm just about out of brain power and desperately in need of some tea or some such. This has got a lovely triangle shape on it, hasn't it? So I could do this. I could do this on the front actually, because I've got the wrong pen. Let's go for the other one. Let me just take one square and I'm just going to pop. I'm not measuring it, I'm just looking at it. I'm going to do the same shape as I did with the one here. So I'm using just one square like this. I'm going to take my pencil and I'm going to draw in my centre lines so that I can then create these. So what I'm doing is decorating the envelope with one of the motifs from the card that's inside. Am I going to paint this or anything? No. Might use white gel pen though to put some highlights on or whatever. But it's on a craft paper, craft coloured envelope. Like so. I am going to put circles here that I'm going to put some glitter dots on, just as I've done in the other parts. But I'm going to fill them in black this time because I don't want the brown underneath, as it were. I could have done that on the card, but I chose not to. I'll just give that a moment to dry before I do anything else. And this time, instead of using graphite to suggest some dimension, I'm going to thicken the lines to the left and the bottom of this particular little tile, just to give it that feeling. There's a shadow there, and this is sitting on top. And I'll come back and do something with that. I also want to just go back and just thicken these lines a little bit, just to make them the more dominant lines. A bit spindly, really, but they'll be okay. Right, so as I used gold on the inside, I'm going to use gold on the outside. But I'm going to leave an edge of black around the gold this time. So I've got gold there, and that will then go with this card. Yes, it's square, but these essentially are squares, just on the point instead of other ways. And what I can do as well, and what I'm going to do, is I'm going to take a stem of that muka and just run it up part the way up the side because of addresses and things like that. I'll come back and sort that one out, and I'm going to do exactly the same kind of thing here on the bottom. Inky glue. Inky glue. And then I'm going to broaden these lines, but I'm going to try and do that on the left and bottom, kind of. Oh, you can't see what I'm doing. I'm so sorry. So we have this now. And just for fun, this one, I'm going to add another little bit, and perhaps one that goes up there. My best work there, but you know, this one I'm going to leave perhaps under here. I can add something like that, but it's going to have a stem that joins like so. So it's almost growing off this one because it's in a different place. So I've got, you know, an odd number of different numbers on each, but that's fine. In fact, I most probably could get away with one more here. They're more the traditional, I say traditional Zentangle muka, but they are. So that's my envelope that goes with that, with some gold on. And I'm not doing any more than that. It is what it is. I could colour it in. I choose not to. I choose to leave it plain and simple. Okay, I need another envelope. So bear with, because I will finish this and then I will go and have my tea or whatever I choose to have before bed. Gosh, it's 8 o'clock here in the UK. So I now have this one, which I love. So I am going to use the corner draw that motif in. Again, with border around the outside. And again, I'm just going to add some extra ink to the left and the bottom, like a block shadow. Okay. So it is essentially a block shadow and will just help to lift that up off the paper. And then in the middle, we're going to do the same thing where I'm going to how is it I managed to fit that in the corner and I didn't on the others? Who knows? Like that. And then That one's a bit of an odd shape, but they're squished in. I'm going to fill these sections with black just to help to separate these out. Now these would be okay to post, especially as with the gold there, I'm actually going to put the Sakura glaze on them. I just thought, did I put them with the, yes, I have got the flap up. I have got the flap up. So in the middle, I've put a border there, and in the center, I'm not putting color, I'm just going to put plain old black, essentially because I can. There we are, just to help bring some shapes out and so on. This one, I did have these borders of broken glass. So I think I could do some thin borders like that, or some borders, just do this. And I'll do the same this side. They're a bit wonky. So I come back. I'm going to cap that with a round bit, and then sort of like over a rounded rectangle, and then I'm just going to put a circle on the top. It's not very good. May redo an envelope for this one. Double lines. And I'm just going to create patterns of brokenness within there. Because we're working in a narrow area, it's going to be doing your best you can to do that, and it's more the effect that we want than anything else. So just shattered everything, if you like. And sometimes when shapes get too similar, you can just go and add lines and alter them. There's actually an A in there, so if I can find a way to get an I and a P in, I've hidden my initials, haven't I? Would I send this through the post as it is? Not entirely sure. I might find another envelope to pop them into so that the envelopes themselves don't get damaged, 'cause in inclement weather or other reasons, things happen. But I'm not going to go back and add tiny bits of ink to glue these shards together. I'm just going to leave it as it exactly is drawn. It's only an example. So I'm not happy with this one. And I'm ending up with repetitive patterns. I can tell my brain's getting tired. It's going into, oh, I can do this. See, it's done it there. Oh, sorry, you can't see. I do apologise. I've done the same thing. But I just think it's quite nice to have a is the one I used, isn't it? I think so, yeah. I think it is nice to have a little bit of decoration. It makes it a little bit special. I've seen people do them with amazing watercolors or Copic markers on them. You can seal them with micro glaze, which Distress, Tim Holt's Distress range has it there. But actually, it's the microcrystalline wax that you can use on cars, and it seals the surface in. It makes it waterproof. With glitter, you need to seal the glitter in. With pigment ink, you need to seal that in before because it will smear pigment ink. But with other things like distress inks, watercolor, it will seal the colors in. Actually, it makes them shine more or glow more. The colors come out more, not less, because you get more light reflected from them rather than being absorbed by them. But that would be the envelope that goes with this. Yeah, with the same kind of glitter on there, and you know, similar patterns. Say I'm not happy with these, but my brain has just about had it now, and it's not from the drawing and the art, it's from the talking. Trying to multitask. So I do hope that you've enjoyed this. I do hope that you can take something from it. It's been 2.25 hours of art, which is nothing really. I can do that, but it's the talking that's the problem. So thank you for joining me. Thank you for sharing the live stream with me. Thank you for giving thumbs up. And if you're new and you've enjoyed this, please consider um, subscribing to the channel. It costs nothing. Don't have to pay. It just shows a bit of support, and it means that if you press the bell button, you'll get notified of when I'm uploading videos or uploaded one, or if I'm going live. Today was an impromptu live, so I suddenly realised I've got enough energy to do this. I'm going to do this, and so I did. And that's likely to happen at the moment because my energy is up and down and unpredictable. Um, and I'm surprised, given I had dosbarth Gymraeg y bore 'ma, Welsh class this morning. So take care of yourselves. Find time to be creative. Think about, if you want to make cards, do that. If you don't, if you just want to create little designs like this for yourself, please do. I really enjoy this. I like the mix of organic and geometric. Very organic in both cases. We've got leaves here and flower shapes there. Here we've got leaves and berries, but much more geometry. I love this like that. And I've used pencil shading, graphite pencil shading, which is a miracle. Will I send these? Most probably not this one, but this one. Almost certainly. I know somebody who'd enjoy that colour. So thanks for joining me. Take care now. And above all else, find time to be creative. Hwyl for now. Bye-bye. Bye.